The resignation of VA Secretary Eric Shinseki eases some of the political heat on President Obama, but it does nothing to solve the problem of veterans having to wait for months to see a doctor. Joining us now from Phoenix, the original whistleblower in the scandal there, Dr. Sam Foote. And here in Washington, Florida Congressman Jeff Miller, head of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. Chairman Miller, now that Secretary Shinseki has resigned, how concerned are you that the political attention on the scandal is going to begin to fade, that the politicians, the public, the media, we're all going to resume ignoring the problem?
It will not fade on the Hill, I can promise you that. The American people are so disgusted, it's not going to fade out there. My concern is it's going to fade in the media. Just like we couldn't get the media to pay attention over a year and a half ago to issues that related to this. And I'm very hopeful that people like yourself and others will continue to keep this in the forefront because it's much bigger than what we're going to even talking about today.
Dr. Foote, do you worry that now with Eric Shinseki gone, that interest, attention to the VA scandal is going to fade?
There's a huge mismatch system-wide between the demand for care and the VA's ability to supply it, and I don't think the media is going to let that go away. I certainly hope they won't.
And we're going to pick up on that mismatch in a minute, but I want to ask you this first, Chairman Miller. The VA inspector, it came out this week, had issued 18 reports since 2005 about scheduling problems leading to long waits in time for veterans to get care. And yet both the president and Eric Shinseki said that they didn't know about the problem. Watch what the president had to say about this.
This issue of scheduling is one that the reporting systems inside of the VHA did not surface to the level where Rick was aware of it or we were able to see it. This was not something that we were hearing when I was traveling around the country.
Chairman Miller, with 18 reports since 2005, how could they not have known? And quite frankly, how could all of you in Congress not have known?
Well, interestingly enough, many of those reports were instigated by the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. And when we went to the VA to ask if the recommendations, in fact, were going to be followed up on, they said yes. And then when we asked them about their numbers, they lied to Congress in regards to their numbers. But it's very difficult for me to believe that the central office here in Washington, D.C. did not have any idea about the cooking of the book and the illegal activity, basically, that was going on at now, under their own admission, 60% of their facilities.
Why do you say that? Why do you think it's unlikely that Shinseki didn't know this was going on? Why do you think it's unlikely that the president didn't know?
Well, because the secretary 3 weeks ago, when he testified in front of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, said this was an isolated incident at Phoenix alone. We already knew that it was pervasive throughout the country, and the vast majority of their facilities have been affected by it.
Dr. Foote, as you were sitting there for 24 years in the VA facilities in Phoenix, how do you explain and do you believe that this disconnect between the gaming of the system, not just in Phoenix, but at VA facilities across the country, and the apparent lack of knowledge here among top officials in Washington?
Not getting the accurate numbers suited the upper VA Washington folks in the VA, and I think that's the root of it. Schoenhard's memo from 2010 clearly showed that they knew various strategies of how to avoid this, and whether that was a don't do this or a how to do this is still open for debate.
You talked, Dr. Foote, about the mismatch of demands and resources inside the VA. I want to talk about this and as we discuss possible fixes, because the number of primary care visits to the VA has jumped 50% in the last 3 years, but the number of primary care doctors rose only 9%. Dr. Foote, the VA budget, it's not a lack of money. The VA budget has tripled since 2000. So I guess one of the questions is, should the VA be taking care from the moment that a veteran leaves the service of every veteran for life, or should there be some more targeting, that if it's a service-related problem or if a veteran is destitute, that yes, the system will take care of them, but if a veteran is getting old and it's just an age issue or a health issue unrelated to his service, that the VA should not be responsible?
Well, the VA is here to take care of those who've borne the battle. And it was set up originally to take care of people for their service-connected conditions. And then probably in the early 90s, it sort of kind of evolved into a safety net. And now it's trying to promise under the Affordable Care Act that it's going to be, an insurance similar to others. And I don't think it can quite meet that goal. If they want to do that, it's going to take a lot more facilities. It's going to take a lot more money.
Chairman Miller, you've got the Vietnam and Korea veterans who are getting older. You've got this explosion of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, and because of our advances in medicine on the battlefield, a lot of them with grievous physical and mental injuries. Do we have to scale back what the VA does, particularly if it's a non-service related health problem for a veteran? Has nothing to do with the fact that he served as a veteran.
Well, actually, I think that what you may be talking about is whether or not they have to come to the VA system for their care. I think we have the dollars to be able to provide the care, and that may be in the outside private sector, which VA already has the ability to do. VA does a great job when you're dealing with battlefield injuries, traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and those are the things that are the core mission, obviously, of the VA. And yes, we have had additional veterans come into the system, but the vast majority of the new veterans that are being enrolled into the system are, in fact, older veterans from Korea and Vietnam with aging issues, and they don't necessarily have to be treated at a VA hospital.
Should they be the responsibility of the VA at all?
Well, there's no reason not for us to treat those who have borne the battle, worn the uniform of this nation. We have the money to be able to do that, and they want to throw up the fact we don't have enough doctors. The doctors, in many instances, aren't seeing enough patients. They don't see nearly the panel of patients that physicians on the outside of the government system.
Let me bring Dr. Foote into that, because that's been a complaint. Some critics are saying, well, look, this is what happens when you get government health care, because there's no incentive. Since you're on salaries, you're not being paid fee for service. There's no incentive for doctors in the VA system to see as many patients as they do in the private sector. Your reaction to that, sir?
That's variable from facility to facility, but I think we all understand in a capitalist society, it responds much quicker. If the restaurants are overcrowded, and somebody's going to build a restaurant to take advantage of that. And so in a capitalist system, you're much better at putting your resources where the demand is. And so I think in the VA, you may have places like Phoenix where we probably have 10 or 12,000 patients that don't have, established patients that don't have primary care providers, and another 3,100 that can't get into the system. So clearly, we're crying for more resources there, and the staff has been overworked. There may be many other facilities where they're not working that hard, and that's the difference, I think, between the government-run operations and the private sector.
Finally, let me ask you both, and I'll start with you, Dr. Foote, on this. I can't remember how long that we have been talking about problems at the VA with health care, with schedules, with disability problems. Do you really believe this time's going to be different, that there is going to be a cultural change, a serious systemic change in the VA, and that this time it'll get fixed? Dr. Foote, you first.
Yeah, I'm extremely hopeful. The VA is great at chronic care, high blood pressure, diabetes. It falls down at urgent and emergency room type care, and when hospitalization is needed, especially out west where the distances are great and the population is sparse, and in other parts of the country as well.
You get the last word, Chairman Miller.
We have a unique opportunity to help change the system, to better serve veterans and not serve the bureaucrats that work inside the system. And let me tell you, if it wasn't for a gentleman named Dr. Foote coming forward and continuing to blow the whistle until somebody finally paid attention to what he was saying, we probably wouldn't be talking about this today.
Well, we all agree, and the gratitude that a lot of us feel to Dr. Foote. Thank you so much for your service, sir. Congressman Miller, Dr. Foote, thank you both for coming in today, and we promise we'll stay on top of this story. Thank you, gentlemen. Up next.